I thought I had finally found the one when I met Elena. Our love felt like a quiet harbor after a long storm, or at least, that is what I told myself every time I looked into her deep brown eyes. For a year, we built a world together. We shared coffee in the silent mornings and whispered about our future under the glow of the city lights. But there was always a shadow between us, a name that she never spoke but always carried in the way she looked at her phone or stared blankly out the window when a certain song played. That name was Marcus. One rainy Saturday evening, we were curled up on the sofa. The atmosphere was perfect, or so I thought. I was describing a house I wanted us to visit next weekend, painting a picture of a life that belonged to both of us. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a simple notification, but Elena lunged for it with a desperation that made my heart sink. Her face transformed in a second. The weariness she usually carried vanished, replaced by a radiant, painful glow. She didn't realize I was watching her. She didn't realize that in that moment, she had completely forgotten I was in the room. "Elena," I whispered, my voice sounding thin even to my own ears. She jumped, quickly turning the phone face down, but the light in her eyes stayed behind. "Yes, Johnson?" "Sorry, I was just checking the time." "You weren't checking the time," I said, sitting up straight. The warmth of the room had suddenly turned cold. "You haven't been here with me for months, have you? You're still living in a past that doesn't include me." She looked away, her fingers trembling as she gripped the edge of her sweater. "That's not true. I love you, Johnson. You know I do." "Then show me your phone," I challenged, though I hated myself for asking. "Show me who just messaged you, and why you look like you just saw a ghost come back to life." The silence that followed was louder than the rain hitting the glass. Elena didn't move. A single tear rolled down her cheek, and that was my answer. The suspense of not knowing was gone, replaced by a heavy, crushing reality. She wasn't just talking to Marcus, she was still in love with him. Every kiss she gave me, every "I love you" she whispered, was just a bandage she was trying to wrap around a wound that wouldn't heal. "He wants to see me," she finally choked out, her voice breaking. "He says he made a mistake, Johnson." And the worst part is, when I read those words, I felt my heart beat for the first time in weeks. I tried to hide it. I tried to be the woman you deserve, but I can't stop feeling this way. I stood up, the pain in my chest feeling like a physical weight. I loved her enough to want her to stay, but I loved myself enough to know I couldn't be a second choice. I couldn't spend my life competing with a memory. "You don't have to try anymore," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. "I won't be the man who stands in the way of your heart, even if your heart is heading toward a wreck. If you have to hide your feelings for him just to be with me, then we don't have anything at all." "Johnson, please don't do this," she sobbed, reaching for my hand. I pulled away gently. The drama of our love had reached its final act. "I'm not doing this, Elena. You already did. You stayed with me, but you never left him. I deserve to be loved by someone who doesn't have to look back to feel happy." I walked to the door, grabbing my coat. I didn't look back because I knew if I saw her crying, I might stay, and staying would be the biggest lie of all. I walked out into the rain, leaving behind the girl I loved and the ghost of the man who had always been there between us. The air was cold, but for the first time in a long time, I could finally breathe. The weeks following our breakup felt like a long, gray blur. I stayed in my apartment, trying to scrub the scent of her perfume from my pillows, while the city whispered rumors of what was happening on the other side of town. Even though we were over, I couldn't stop my heart from seeking out news of her. I heard it through mutual friends, and sometimes I saw it in the background of social media posts. Marcus hadn't just messaged her. He had launched an all-out campaign to reclaim the territory he had once abandoned. He started with the grand gestures, the kind that make for great movies but leave real people feeling exhausted. One Tuesday, a florist friend told me Marcus had ordered 300 white roses to be delivered to Elena's office. I pictured her standing there, surrounded by the overwhelming scent of flowers, her co-workers whispering while she stood in the center of a floral graveyard. He was playing on her guilt and her nostalgia, reminding her of the perfect version of them that never truly existed. Then came the public displays. He didn't just want her back. He wanted the world to know he was winning. He found out she was dining at our old favorite spot, a place I could no longer bring myself to visit, and he showed up with a vintage violin player. He stood outside the window in the cold, a scene straight out of a desperate romance novel, playing the song they had danced to at their high school prom. People stopped to film it. To the strangers on the street, It was a beautiful act of a man fighting for his soulmate. To me, it felt like he was suffocating her with the past. The suspense of their reunion reached a breaking point a month later. I was walking home late one evening when I saw them. They were standing outside her apartment building, under the same flickering street lamp where she and I had shared our first kiss. Marcus was different than I imagined, taller, with an air of practiced confidence that made my stomach turn. He was holding her shoulders, leaning in close, his voice a low, urgent murmur that carried through the quiet night air. "I never stopped, Elena," Marcus was saying, his voice thick with a forced kind of drama. "Every city I went to, every woman I met, they were just shadows of you. I was a fool to walk away, but I've spent every day since then trying to find my way back to this door." Elena was shaking. I could see it even from the shadows across the street. She looked smaller next to him, her head bowed as if the weight of his words was too much to carry. "You left me broken, Marcus," she whispered. Johnson was there to pick up the pieces. He was good to me. But he wasn't me," Marcus countered, pulling her closer. "Being good isn't the same as being the person who owns your soul. Look at me. Tell me you don't feel it. Tell me the last year wasn't just you waiting for me to wake up." The silence stretched out, agonizingly long. I stood frozen, my breath hitching in my chest. This was the moment I had feared. Part of me wanted to run over and pull her away, to remind her that I was the one who stayed when things were hard. But I stayed in the shadows. I had already learned that you cannot fight a ghost. Elena finally looked up at him, and in the yellow light of the street lamp, I saw her face clearly. She wasn't smiling. She looked exhausted, as if she were finally seeing the strings behind the magic trick. She reached up and slowly removed his hands from her shoulders. "You're right, Marcus," she said, her voice gaining a sudden, sharp clarity. "He wasn't you. And that was the best part about him. You think these flowers and these songs fix the fact that you threw me away when you got bored? You didn't come back because you love me. You came back because you saw I was happy with someone else, and you couldn't stand not being the center of my world." Marcus stepped back, his confident mask slipping. "Elena, that's not. I ruined the best thing I ever had because I was still holding on to the ghost of you," she interrupted, tears finally spilling over. "I let Johnson go because I thought I owed it to our history, to give you a chance. But standing here now, looking at you, I realized I don't love you. I love the girl I was when I was with you, and she's been dead for a long time." She turned her back on him and walked toward the entrance of her building. Marcus called out her name, his voice desperate and angry now, but she didn't turn around. She disappeared inside, leaving him standing alone under the flickering light with nothing but his expensive roses and his hollow words. I leaned against the brick wall of the building I was hiding behind, a strange sense of peace washing over me. It was over. The triangle was broken. Elena had finally seen through the fog, but the cost had been us. She had lost me, and she had finally let go of him. As I walked away into the darkness, I realized that sometimes love isn't about the grand gestures or the dramatic returns. It's about the person who stays when the music stops. And we had both failed to realize that until it was far too late. Thank you for watching. If you love stories like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more.